What's up, everybody? I am finally getting around to filming the third video in my powerlifting pregnancy series. So this one, even though it's a powerlifting pregnancy series, we're actually going to talk about some postpartum stuff. A lot of the questions that I get are postpartum questions, so it just seemed smart to cover some of that stuff in this series as well, since getting back to training and things like that are things that I am getting questions on pretty regularly. So when we talk about getting back to training, and let me start this video off by basically saying what I said in the other two videos. I'm not a medical professional, and I am in no way necessarily offering advice or telling anybody, oh, this is the way to do things. I'm just sharing with you what I did. You take it or leave it. So when it comes to getting back in the gym, there's so many things that play into this that make a difference, that it's really different from person to person. And just like training, it's going to be a lot more going by your body and what feels good to you. So I personally was back walking on a treadmill 2 or 3 days after Cameron was born. And when I say walking on a treadmill, it was very slow walking, no incline, anything like that. It was literally just to get me up and moving for a few minutes during the day. So I think that, movement helps with recovery. And I think that because I was active, even the day after Cameron was born, I was up and around the hotel room. So 2 or 3 days after, I was back on the treadmill, and then a week after, I was back in the gym, but just doing some really light upper body stuff. I benched, but I think I was benching like 55, 65 pounds, which, this is all relative to your strength level. And lower body, I think I started doing some body weight movements and things like goblet squats closer to like 4 weeks. And then I think it was about 5 weeks postpartum that I finally got back under a bar and was doing like squats and deadlifts. I did do Romanian deadlifts like with a kettlebell, and then really light with a bar, probably in that 4 or 5 week period too. So like I said, this is really going to depend on your recovery and your labor and delivery. Some people bleed more, some people tear, some people have C-sections, some people have harder recoveries just in general. Just, it's so different from person to person. And a really good way to tell if you're doing too much and you need to back off is by your bleeding. So if you are having postpartum bleeding and it starts to trickle off, and you start doing some sort of activity and everything is still getting less and less, then you're most likely on the right track. But if you are not active and then you start training or doing whatever, and you start bleeding more than you were bleeding before, you probably need to back off. And I know that a 6-week period is a general thing that doctors say. If that's what your doctor says and that's what you want to do, go for it. I believe my doctor told me the same thing. I didn't listen. But at the same time, I think that actually my doctor, I think, said 4 weeks. 4 weeks of no heavy lifting. So I pretty much complied with that, because even when I went back, I was very, just everything was really, really light. And it was more about just getting some sort of movement in to make me feel better. So that's kind of my timeline of how I did things. Like I said, don't expect it to be the same for you. You might recover quicker. You might, take longer to recover. The main focus here is letting yourself recover. So give yourself that time. And if you feel like you want to take a couple months off and just, go for walks or something, then do that. Do what makes you feel good. I definitely would suggest some sort of movement at some point, you know, within the first month, but everybody's a little bit different. So the next thing, a lot of people say, you know, how do I start back? So again, going back to kind of everything in this series, that everything starts with it depends. So it really depends on what you were doing before. If you were deadlifting, benching, and squatting 3 times a week, I probably wouldn't suggest just going right back to that. But somebody who is doing, you know, a decent amount of volume and a decent amount of frequency, it might be a little bit easier to get back into that a little quicker than somebody who wasn't. So basically, just start very, very light and don't rush. You know, doing the movements once a week, even training like a couple times a week in the beginning. You know, if you've taken a long time off, it's going to take your body longer to adapt. If you didn't have to take as long off, it's going to be a little bit different. So as far as, you know, when you go back to the gym, I would just say start really light. Start with body weight movements even, and see how things feel. So, you know, like I said, when it comes to the bleeding, your body will tell you if it's not ready. And if you're forcing something that's not there, usually you're going to know. So just starting light, you know, you can always go heavier or move forward in the weeks coming after. If you try to do everything right away, you might end up backtracking, and then you really have to lay off everything, and you're going to have to restart over and over again. So I definitely found that I was a little impatient in the beginning, and while it didn't cause me any medical issues, it was more like physical issues. Currently, I can't squat or deadlift because I'm having some back issues that were from pre-pregnancy. So patience is always a good thing, and if you don't learn it, you will continue to get the lesson until it is learned. So when you start back, be patient with yourself. Let everything be light. Just appreciate that you're getting the time to move your body, and focus on being thankful for that, rather than trying to chase old numbers or anything like that. That's one thing that I really suggest. Postpartum, it's like, just pretend that you've never lifted before. Don't even think about your old numbers, because chasing those is what will get you hurt or put you in a bad place mentally. Balancing work and lifting and family. So for me, I am a scheduled person. I was scheduled during my pregnancy. I was scheduled after my pregnancy. Obviously, the first couple months, everything's kind of out the window, because, you know, especially with breastfeeding, your baby needs you, and so you can't, you know, just leave him with people to feed when you are the food. So balance, I think, is in a better place now that he's older, but the first couple months are rough. And the one thing that I would say is to not forget about yourself. You want to make sure that you're doing something for yourself, even if it's 5 minutes. You know, even anything that you enjoyed pre-pregnancy or pre-baby, do something for yourself. I know there was times, you know, where I would walk on the treadmill. There were times where I just trained for like 30 minutes. We are lucky to have our own facility, so I was able to bring him with me and still bring him with me. I understand not everybody has that situation. So as far as balancing everything, just do your best in the beginning, but always make yourself a priority. You know, I remember just taking a few minutes, like, to read. I'm not a nap person. I think I took like 3 naps. But if you're tired, sleep. I laid in the sun a lot, things like that, that made me feel good. I made sure to do something that made me feel good every single day. And that kind of goes into my next topic, which is postpartum depression. I feel like that I am very fortunate because I did not suffer from postpartum depression. I know it's something that's really serious that a lot of women go through, And I really think that my persistence when it came to taking care of myself kind of played into that. I wasn't willing to like just give up everything that I love just because I had a baby. I want to be a good mom and I want to be a good wife, and in order for me to do that, I need to take care of myself. So while my time for myself is very limited, I think it's really, really important to still have time for yourself. So that would be my 2 cents on that situation. And you know, if you are depressed, talk to somebody. There's nothing wrong with getting therapy for anything that you feel is not going well. Just maybe having somebody to talk to might make a really big difference. But if there is one thing that I can say about, you know, training during my entire pregnancy, I think because I did that and because, you know, I was active postpartum, I think that that kind of really put my mind in a better place because I was still making an effort to take care of myself physically and mentally. And then the last topic that I'm going to go over is breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is kind of this was my one struggle that was like really ingrained in my brain, as far as like when I think about like really hard times postpartum, they were all breastfeeding related. Kind of like a quick story. My baby was not latching correctly, so I ended up with bloody, scabbed nipples. He was feeding for like over an hour and still not getting what he needed. Long story short, he ended up losing more weight than they like for the babies to lose. So of course my doctor suggested that we supplement with formula, and I knew that that's what we had to do because I couldn't let my baby starve, but I felt like a failure. I can remember in the beginning crying most of my sessions nursing him from the pain or from feeling like my body wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. But it was something that was really important to me. So I worked with a lactation consultant, and I worked with my doula, and I talked to people. I talked to friends who have breastfed and a lot of people, and I got any information that I could, and I read. And long story short, we ended up, you know, taking those supplement feedings, and I was pumping after every single feeding, which was a lot of work. So I pumped after every feeding, and I started saving milk, and then I started switching the formula out to breast milk until he was receiving all breast milk. And then after that, I started to drop out some of the supplementation, so my body had time to catch up. And now he is almost 10 months old and is still breastfed, which I can say that I'm pretty proud of because I had to work really hard to get there. But if it's important to you, if it's really, really important, and if you can do it, then do it. I understand that not everybody can, and I know that's hard for a lot of moms that really want to. So I definitely don't take it for granted. And it was definitely worth it because I think that there is a connection there that is completely unmatched. But that's enough about that. I think I covered all the questions that I got. Again, just like the other videos, if there's another question that you guys have, please feel free to leave it in the comments. I would love for people to come and see this and this be here for some people. You know, powerlifting is huge for women now, and it's great, but women have babies. It's what we do. So this is important information, and there wasn't a lot of information out there. So I hope that if you watched all 3 of these, or if you watched 1 of them or 2 of them or whatever, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you share with any of your pregnant friends or soon to be pregnant or whatever, I appreciate that too. So thank you again, and happy pregnancies and postpartums and motherhood, all that stuff. And now I'm gonna go kill my dog.